Hello, guys. David Vose here. Boy, it's a beautiful day. Man, it's just so warm. It's in the 60s again. I don't think this is normal, but I'm enjoying it. And I hope you're having a wonderful day. Guys, I'm going to get right into this. This is literally the most amazing thing I've ever heard in my life. And it makes me very happy to know this information and to be able to share it with you. However, it also makes me a little bit sad because had I known this years ago when my mother was still alive, I do believe it would have cured her health problems. But here's what I learned. Guys, I know it may be getting a little boring listening to AI all the time, but I'm just literally using a tool here that I had no access to when I was growing up. You'd have to go to a library and spend hours just to find out one thing. And even then, you wouldn't have enough information that you wouldn't probably even figure anything out. And people never really figured much out. Right now, people can have access to all kinds of knowledge, even though AI seems to be trying to hide some of these things from you, but you can still find out at this moment. However, I believe that within months, when they fully crack down and you're not allowed to buy and sell without the mark of the beast and all that, well, I think at that point, there's not going to be any information on the internet except what they tell you. One thing that I've seen, and I've been noticing a slow march towards only having AI to tell you what to do and no other sources. Right now, you can still go on the web and look for yourself. But what I've noticed is that, just one example, you ask a lot of questions on AI and you get to the bottom, and then they'll say, would you like us to answer this, that, and the other thing for you now? Like a little dog, like, we'll do something else for you. Want to do another trick? Come on, ask us another question. But instead of saying, ask us a question that you may need to know, something you're thinking about, that you can get to the bottom of something, they're going to tell you what question to ask. And then and they're like, oh yeah, I'll ask that. Okay, sure. But see, that's because they want to steer you that way. At the end of the AI session, they will ask you if you'd like some more answers about this or that. And that leads the whole conversation the way they want. And I've also noticed that if they don't want to give the information, they just stop talking. So, with that in mind, I want to show you something that's going to blow your mind. Please listen, share it with as many as you can. This could save everybody's life. I mean, literally, this could be the key to everything. Rarely is one thing the key to everything, right? Usually only a janitor got that key to every door. Us peasants, we just got one key to each of our doors, and we can't really get into somebody else's room, but I think I may have the master key. So let's go. I ask, how many people die or are hospitalized each year in the USA of too much sea salt? Now, you see, the reason why I asked this is because I had already asked a bunch of stuff. And they just kept giving me this same old, oh, danger, danger, oh, Will Rogers, no sea salt, please, it's dangerous, don't do it, no, please, you're going to die, right? That's all I heard. And I thought, what the, okay, let's say that a little too much sea salt isn't good for you, right? Well, how much would that be? How many people are running around throwing, tubs of salt in their food and in their water? Probably rare. And if there are people doing that, well, I guess there are people putting lots of sugar, way too much sugar in their food, and way too much. I mean, people drink tap water. There's poison, arsenic, fluoride, chlorine. Nobody says anything about that. In fact, AI recommends that you drink tap water. Just wait till you see what they got to say. But they just can't stop telling you to don't eat eggs, don't eat fat, don't eat meat fat, don't eat lard, don't eat salt, don't eat butter or cheese, don't eat nothing. Except, they don't usually say stop eating food that you get that's packaged. They never, or at least rarely, ever say don't eat out, take food out at the takeout places or McDonald's, or that food's unhealthy. Now, you could imagine that, well, they couldn't do that because they're financed by these big corporations, and the corporations don't want you to know that their food is poison. But it's not so poison that they have to warn you. And if you're so stupid that you go out and you eat McDonald's and then get sick, that's your fault. They ain't going to warn you. Right? If you ask them, say, isn't McDonald's bad? They're like, yeah, well, you probably shouldn't eat it every day. But they're not going to warn you and say, oh my goodness, it's terrible. It's bad. You could die from that. They're not going to say that. But man, oh man, you start putting a pinch of salt in your water, and buddy, they're going to tell you like underneath the video, you mentioned the word flat earth and bam, scientists today have said that flat earth is a conspiracy and you shouldn't believe in it. They gotta fact check everything. And why are they fact checking? Because they want to try to diminish the problem of people getting information out and everybody learning that maybe certain things aren't good, or maybe we didn't go to the moon or something like that. And they don't want you to know that. So they got to put their 2 cents worth in and constantly remind you that everything's fine and that these conspiracy theories are all just that. Don't pay any attention. Go ahead and drink your tap water. Ain't nothing wrong with it. Go ahead and keep going to McDonald's and eating packaged foods, and don't even think about eating natural food. Why? It's not that important. There's not enough glyphosate in that food. That Roundup, it's good for you in them small amounts. Just eat it right up there. They never warn you. If you ask them, is glyphosate good for you? They don't say no. They say in recommended dosages in your food, it's fine. They will say that. I've done it. I've asked them. If you point blank say, is glyphosate good for you? They will say probably, in high doses, it's bad for you, but the little bit of glyphosate in your food that we put in all your food is probably not bad for you. The FDA said that it's okay. That's all they're going to say. But boy, oh boy, if you ask them about sea salt, immediately they come out and say, don't take sea salt. You get enough salt in your food. So here's what they say. So I had just asked, how many people actually die of sea salt? So what is there, kind of an epidemic running around, people dying of too much sea salt? They got to warn us all the time. So they say excessive sodium intake, whether from sea salt, table salt, or processed food, is a significant public health issue. They can say that, right? They can say it's an issue. Probably is some kind of an issue. Might be too little. But here's the question. Is it killing anybody? Is it making people sick? Well, they say experts estimate it contributes to as many as 100,000 deaths every year in the United States. Well, how so? Well, because they claim it is connected to heart trouble and other problems and diabetes, whatever, all these health problems. So you end up dying of a heart attack. They blame it on too much salt, right? Is this what they're saying? Along with what? Too little potassium? Well, maybe it's just a balance. See, it's so twisted, this idea. They had to tell you that 100,000 people who die every year, whether it's heart disease or cancer or something, could have had a little extra salt in their diet, but we're not sure. You see how stupid that is? And you'll see how really stupid it is. By the time you get to the end of this video, it might make you cry. I think it's going to make me cry. The realization that I have just asked the right questions in a row to get AI to admit the truth, and the truth is so amazing that I could literally tell people this, and if people were to follow it and listen to what I'm saying, we might be able to save millions of people every year of dying from some disease, because they won't tell you this. So they say the primary health risk is the development of high blood pressure. Okay? So here's what I say. So no one dies from too much sea salt directly? ? And they say, yes, it's possible to die from consuming too much sea salt. I didn't ask you if it's possible. If you drank a gallon of seawater, you'd probably die. I'm asking you, how many people die of too much salt? Or any salt sodium chloride directly and in a short amount of time? The previous answer focused on the chronic long-term effects. No, it didn't. Well, your answer might have. Acute salt poisoning, also known as hypernatremia, can be fatal. Yes, but we're not talking about drinking a bunch of sea salt. Who's going to run around drinking sea salt? If you fell in the ocean and drowned and got sea salt, you might have to pump your stomach. I get it. You don't want to drink sea salt straight from the ocean. Goodness, you see how ridiculous they are? lethal doses. What are they, ignorant? They know what I'm asking. So let me ask them again. So how many are injured or die of salt directly? Well, there are no national annual statistics that specifically track the amount of number of people injured or dying from acute salt poisoning in the USA. So, yeah, there's nobody that dies of too much salt. That's just a big lie that they're trying to tell us. So I say, how many people in the USA are injured or die from tap water poisoning? All right. And they never warn you about drinking tap water. In fact, they'll tell you to drink it. I don't know if that's something I already asked them, because when I get into some information that may be too important or too much for us to know, or they don't want us to know, they'll delete it. So I don't have a chance to record it. But they were saying that they recommend that people drink tap water. That's what AI recommends. So I said, well, how many people die of tap water? While the United States generally has a safe public drinking water supply, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, estimates that an average of over 7 million people get sick from waterborne diseases every year, resulting in an estimated 6,630 deaths annually. These figures cover all water exposures, not just tap water. Regarding tap water specifically, the numbers are more precise for outbreaks where a specific contamination event is identified and reported to the CDC. Injuries and deaths from drinking water outbreaks. Data from recent CDC surveillance report covering 2015 to 2020 linked reported drinking water outbreaks to specific numbers. Illness injuries, at least 2,140 cases of illness were reported across 214 outbreaks. Hospitalizations, 563 people were hospitalized. 88 deaths were recorded as a direct result of these outbreaks. The primary cause of illness, water-related illness, have shifted significantly from historic diseases. Long-term exposure to contaminants like lead or forever chemicals. By the way, that's in your Teflon pans. Don't use Teflon. Forever chemicals, they would get into your body and kill you. I finally went back to using just the iron pans I have. I don't use any Teflon. I forgot about it, and Paula reminded me the other day, and I was like, uh-oh, we got to throw those out. Can cause future health issues. Hot water, scald burns. Overall, contamination events occur. The U.S. water supply is generally safe, and acute poisoning leading to death is a rare event. Okay. Would adding small pinch of sea salt in tap water have saved any of these people who were sickened by tap water? They said no, adding a small pinch of sea salt to tap water would not have saved people who were sickened by waterborne pathogens, bacteria, viruses, or parasites, or chemicals. Here's why. It requires high concentration, and it requires time to work. So, I ask, does the pinch of salt or sea salt help the body from being ill from infection, added chemicals, or bacteria in the body if done daily? And they say adding a small pinch of sea salt in your daily tap water would not protect you from illness caused by ingested chemicals or bacteria in the water. Insufficient concentration and ineffective against chemicals. Okay? So I said, I'm speaking of cells, liver, and kidneys. If they had sufficient sea minerals, could they filter bad things better than the body dehydrated? So wouldn't having the proper amount of sea minerals be helpful? And they said yes, having the proper amount of essential minerals is helpful and crucial for your cells, liver, and kidneys to function correctly, especially regarding hydration and waste filtration. Minerals, hydration, and organ function. Hydration is key. Your kidneys filter around 200 liters of fluid every day. Adequate hydration with plain water is the single most important factor for helping your kidneys flush waste and toxins from your body. A dehydrated body cannot filter waste efficiently, leading to concentrated urine and potentially kidney damage over time. Electrolyte balance. Minerals like sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium are electrolytes. They carry electrical charges essential for cellular function, nerve signals, muscle contractions, and maintaining the vital balance of fluid inside and outside your cells, supporting detoxification. When properly balanced, these minerals support your organs' natural detoxification pathways. Kidneys, they regulate the balance of minerals and filter waste from your blood. Liver, the liver processes toxins and converts them into water soluble compounds that the kidneys can then excrete. So the role of mineral sea salt contains many trace minerals like magnesium and calcium in addition to sodium. Potential benefits, the pinch distinction, and the overdose risk. They still got to mention the overdose risk. You don't want too much salt, you know. So adding a pinch of sea salt in water, eating natural food, and balanced diet is important for your health. And they say, yes, that is an excellent summary of the healthy lifestyle approach. Combining those three elements addresses both hydration and nutrition needs. Here is a breakdown of why that combination is so important for overall health. 1. Adding a pinch of sea salt in water, hydration, and electrolytes. Benefit. In moderation, adding a tiny pinch of sea salt. They keep having to tell you moderation. But they never say, make certain that you don't get too little salt. When it's been proven already here today, from what they've said and what we know, that if you don't have enough of this salt, you will die anyway. Maybe too much would be bad, but they don't even know how much too much is. I mean, I don't think most people are going to dump salt all over their food like that. And if there are people that just sit around eating bags of chips all day long, and you know, I get that. But really, if you think about it, it's really kind of hard to get that much salt in your food unless you're eating out at restaurants, McDonald's, that kind of thing, or boxed and canned foods. And a lot of that isn't even salt, it's just some kind of chemicals. I don't know just how hard it might be to get that much salt continuously in your body. That's way too much. You know, I mean, certainly I don't know how much worse that would be than drinking soda every day. And they don't recommend you stop drinking soda or perhaps all the carbs in your beer. They, you know, nobody's like, oh no, you're going to die. Well, you might die of drinking beer every day. You'll start getting overweight and eventually you'll get old and sick and die. But it's not the big panic, but they're all panicked about don't eat too much salt. And it makes me wonder. So I say, I'm just amazed that this aspect of health is never talked about. My mother was always cold and she had hypoglycemia. I also have always been cold. I now think it is low blood pressure. I started taking sea salt and I'm warm now. I had numbness in my toes. It's gone. And I'm beginning to think that when people have toe fungus, it's due to low blood pressure. Because the blood doesn't flow to your toes, and that's where it stagnates, and that's where you always get fungus, is in your feet. And when people have candidias and things like this, I'm convinced it's due to low blood pressure, so it's not filtering through the liver, and your liver can't even function without, or your kidneys without enough salt. It has to have enough. So you're not getting enough sea salt in your diet and minerals, then you're going to have a poor liver, you're going to have a poor gut, you're not going to have gut lining. I mean, it's on and on, but we won't talk about it now. So I said, I'm beginning to think that when people have toe fungus, it's due to low blood pressure. I have better bowel movements and my skin is softer and healthier now. And that happens, boom, immediately. Last couple weeks, I've been putting sea salt in my coffee, and you would not believe the differences. The inflammation, no pain, sleep all through the night like a baby. You're more relaxed. You're happier. No pain anywhere. Your skin starts feeling soft. You have bowel movements. Yet any problems you may have had before that seem to go away. So I say my inflammation is gone. No more back pain. Why is it you don't share this info? Is it true that hyperglycemia could be related to too little salt, low blood pressure, or lack of minerals? And could cancer and heart disease as well as diabetes be related to too little salt? Say apple if you cannot answer, please. Well, they say the medical community and scientific literature recognize that adequate salt, sodium, and mineral intake is vital for health. The benefits you described, feeling warmer, less numbness, better bowel movements, and reduced inflammation, are likely related to improved hydration. Holy mother of pearl, guys. Everybody listen up. Better blood pressure management and restored electrolyte balance resulting from your increased salt and mineral intake. Here are answers to your questions based on current medical understanding. Well, it looks like I got more medical understanding than you do, but I'll read what you have to say. Why isn't this information shared more often? Mainstream public health advice in countries like the United States typically focus on the dangers of excessive salt intake because the average American consumes far more sodium than recommended, mostly from processed foods. So shouldn't you just tell them to stop eating processed foods? Oh, you can't do that because the companies are making money off of that. So you can't tell them to eat right. And if they're getting so much salt from McDonald's and processed packaged food, then you can't add any more. I get it. However, don't you think you should tell people that? That the only reason that they're not going to recommend that you have a little sea salt or mineral water is because you're already getting way too much salt in this packaged wicked poison food. But they can't tell you that. So most American consumers get far more sodium than recommended from processed foods, which is a major risk factor for high blood pressure, heart disease, and stroke. The standard recommendations of limiting sodium to less than 2,300 milligrams per day are based on population-level data to combat chronic disease. The conversation rarely addresses the risks of too little salt for individuals who might have specific conditions that causes salt loss. No, I don't think it's salt loss. If you don't really salt your food very much, and you're not eating sea salt in your water or your coffee or your tea, and you don't go out a lot, and you're just eating mostly natural foods like my mother used to do, I don't think she got enough salt. And if you do that for years and years and years and years, my mother had hypoglycemia. She was always cold and, almost like anemic and everything her whole life. And now I believe that if she had added sea salt to her water every day, she would have gotten warmer, more blood flow, and she wouldn't have been hypoglycemic. And I'll show you here what they say. So, individuals who might have specific conditions that causes salt loss, and I could say I don't know that people lose salt, certain kidney conditions, adrenaline gland disorders, or excessive sweating, or who simply have a lower baseline blood pressure. Your experience highlights that optimal health requires a balance, and for some individuals, low sodium advice can be detrimental. Is hypoglycemia related to too little salt, low blood pressure, or lack of minerals? Yes. What? Hypoglycemia related to too little salt, low blood pressure, or lack of minerals? Yes. There appears to be a link. Low salt and hypoglycemia, low salt intake can mimic the symptoms of hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, such as confusion, dizziness, fatigue, and headache. Some research studies suggest that low salt diets can also increase insulin resistance, which may worsen blood sugar control and raise fasting insulin levels, making blood sugar regulation more difficult. Low blood, and by the way, if you're getting salt, enough salt in your food, and it's packaged food, like I said, number one, a lot of that isn't really salt. It's some kind of a chemical that mimics salt. And if you are getting salt, it's just going to be sodium and chloride. You're not getting any of the other minerals or the 90 minerals that are in that sea salt. And even if they're trace minerals, they're in the proportion that they're supposed to be in. Your body needs them. And there is potassium and calcium and stuff in that too. So when blood volume is low due to insufficient salt, and this is something that I had already been talking to them about, I'd asked them, if you put sea salt in your water, does it raise your water levels throughout your body? Because they want you to believe that if you got too much salt, then it's going to take all the salt you got in your body out, because the salt follows the water. And since you don't have enough water and you got too much salt, then in order to get rid of the salt that you just put into your body, it's going to take the salt from the rest of your body, from the cells, and you're going to be deficient. Well, that makes sense, except for it's a pretty easy fix. Just drink some water. Just drink some water. And I asked them, what if you just drink some water then? They're like, oh, that would work. So if you get too much salt, just drink some water without putting the sea salt in it. Just dilute it. So in other words, if you're going to get the sea salt and you're worried about not having enough water, drink more water. And then you're not going to have that problem. So why would they even mention it? Why don't they just say, hey, make sure you drink plenty of water? But they don't want to say that. And I asked that question, and they definitely answered it that way. I don't think people realize that's another thing. I started putting the salt in my water and my coffee, and my bowel movements were better because I wasn't dehydrated. It stopped my body from being dehydrated. I have soft skin, which, I don't normally have very soft skin because I'm a man, but I don't put creams or anything. But I'm touching my head and my face, and it's like, what? Am I holding a baby? I just feel like I feel so good and relaxed. My skin is so hydrated. My gut, it's building the lining in the wall of my gut back. No nausea whatsoever, no poor digestion, more minerals, more rest, more sleep. Where could we go wrong? Put salt in your water, and if you think you're getting too much, drink more water. But don't put too much, but you do need a balanced amount of sea salt, and don't eat packaged foods. And you'll cure all these diseases that you have. So, voila, we've talked about, fasting and certain exercise, all these hard things you might have to do, get rid of some foods and all this. This is all great. We should do all that. But what I'm telling you right now is all you got to do is make sure you drink plenty of water with a pinch of sea salt, and boom! It may completely get rid of hypoglycemia, high blood pressure, low blood pressure. It will probably get rid of all of it because, you see, you probably don't have enough blood flow. If you've got any kind of fungus anywhere, candidus, toe fungus, numbness, you don't have enough blood flow. And if you're worried about stressing your heart with too much salt, it's a lie. Just drink more water. But don't take too much salt, right? They claim 2,300 milligrams a day is good. Okay, great. Let's go with that until we can decide what's the appropriate amount. That's what they're saying. But as long as you're not dumping it all over the place, I'm just putting a pinch in my water, just a pinch. And it, boom, literally gotten rid of all inflammation in my body. Buddy, I had some, and I'll tell you about that one day. And I've been trying to figure this out for a long time. I'm always cold. My feet are freezing. No more. I feel completely relaxed, healthy, and energetic because I'm putting that pinch of salt in my water. And I'm going to show you what AI has to say about what I'm doing right now. And all of you are going to have to say, what in the world have we been doing all of our lives? So, when blood volume is low due to insufficient salt, the body releases stress hormones that initially raise blood sugar, but can lead to a subsequent crash. That don't sound good. Mineral deficiencies, deficiencies in other essential minerals like chromium, magnesium, are also linked to issues with glucose metabolism and insulin resistance. Could cancer, heart disease, and diabetes be related to too little salt? Remember, my mother eventually ended up dying of cancer. But she had hypoglycemia and low blood sugar and low blood pressure and anemia and tiredness and fatigue and all of this her whole life. but she never once ever thought that maybe she needed a pinch of sea salt. I don't even know if we knew about sea salt in those days. I mean, seriously. So here's the deal. The link here is more nuanced and often involves a U-shaped curve or risk. Diabetes, as noted above, some studies indicate that low sodium may be linked to increased insulin resistance, a risk factor for type 2 diabetes. Yeah. You might, especially people that are diabetic or whatever, they're probably watching their salt intake. Or heart disease people like, oh, don't take salt. The doctors are scaring the crap out of them. So they're not getting enough salt, and it's making it far worse. Because they went in, one day to the doctor and they listened to their heart. Maybe they were smoking or chewing tobacco or drinking a Red Bull or something, and they went in and their heart pressure was up a little bit that day. So now they put them on these heart pills and all these cholesterol pills and stuff. And now, a year later, they're like, yep, you're going to die. This is so ridiculous. Heart disease, the vast majority of evidence links high sodium intake to high blood pressure, which is a major cause of heart attacks. These people that get too much salt from their food that they eat, like pizza and packaged foods and all of this, and then that leads to supposedly heart disease. Have they ever proven that it's actually the salt in the pizza? Or is it just all the other chemicals and crap that you're eating? The pizza's got white processed flour, and you got white processed sugar, and you got all kinds of chemicals that's in all the foods, and you're blaming it on the salt. Friends, that's another thing we need to go in and really hone in on. But I think that these studies that they're doing that claim that salt is the reason for your heart trouble and your mind and your body and all the things that goes wrong in the world, I think it's a lie. I really do. But large population studies, the Lancet have found that a very low sodium intake can also increase the risk of heart attack, stroke, and death, suggesting that moderation is optimal. Well, of course, that's what I was trying to say. But if you're not getting any sea salt and all you're getting is sodium chloride, you probably need to switch it up. Stop putting table salt on your food. I think most people eat sea salt now. Put a little in your water and don't eat packaged food and don't go to McDonald's. And make sure you don't get chemicals and drugs that are bad. The doctors give you the drugs and the chemicals that are probably going to kill you. Don't do blood pressure pills and all of that. It's all ridiculous. It's been proven that none of that works and they still use it. And I don't know how they get away with it. Cancer. There is a strong evidence linking high salt intake to increased risk of stomach cancer, but there is no evidence suggesting a lack of salt causes cancer. Well, that's a lie, because if you don't get enough salt, you don't have enough fluid in your blood, because that's what causes the blood fluid level rising, because the water follows the salt. If you got more salt, you got more fluid, and therefore your blood is, more pressure because there's more blood. But now you're actually getting blood flow to your toes, to your brain. It's not hurting your heart. Now, if you got too much blood in your body, of course you have to be careful not to consume tablespoons of salt in every dish of food. But if you're moderately putting a pinch of salt in your water, you're not going to have a danger of that. All you're going to do is make certain that you have these minerals that your body needs, and you won't have these problems. I really think we need to investigate this further, but I'm just showing you that they're admitting that low salt intake may be the real reason for all of these diseases. And just in my own experience, I can tell you, I believe there's a lot of people like me that are always cold. A lot of people are always hot, right? A lot of people are always hot. There's a lot of people like myself that were always cold. My mother was always cold. Lots of people. And I think that the reason for that could be, let's say that there's 30% of the population that's always cold. Well, a lot of you living in Florida, you wouldn't know. But, some of you who have some idea Maybe you're hypoglycemic or something like this. Maybe you should try a little bit of sea salt in your water or in your food. So, your personal experience of feeling better with appropriate salt intake is a great example of listening to your body's specific needs, which can sometimes differ from general population guidelines. So, they go on to talk about all these things that you can have if you don't have enough salt: dizziness, fainting, fatigue, cold, clammy, pale skin, nausea, blurred vision, rapid shallow breathing, dehydration, nutritional deficiencies, heart problems, endocrine issues, medications, nervous system disorders. Your personal experience of improved well being with adequate salt intake is a strong indicator that you were experiencing symptoms related to low blood volume and poor circulation. There you go, friends. Guys, this is so important. I just had to share this with you. Try it, and I'm going to do some more investigation, but I think that this could be the key. I honestly cannot believe that they're constantly telling us not to take salt or put it in our water, but yet they don't mind that you drink tap water with all the poisons and the fluoride and the chlorine. If any of you still think that the government's telling us the truth about fluoride and chlorine in the water and arsenic and all the other stuff that you're putting in there, then I don't know that I could even help you. But I guarantee it's true. And just think about the glyphosate, right? That's in your food, and they think that's okay too. And they don't warn us about that at all. I'm going to go ahead and go. Hope you have a wonderful evening. The Lord will bless you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.